time here, Newcastle United won 2-0 against Chelsea in a massive result. Apologies if you can hear the lawnmowers behind me. I'm doing this video a little bit later than I do usually because of the kick-off time. I've got a bit more time, so done the press, spoke to Bruno Guimaraes, spoke to Eddie Howe. What a performance, what a result, massive connotations for the whole season, really. I mean, it sounds maybe hyperbolic to say that how important this game was, but it really was absolutely crucial win, and now they're in full command of their own destiny as they were before the game, but with a very winnable game against Everton and a chance to go to Arsenal with a free hit, no pressure on it. If they hadn't done that today, then they would have had to have gone to Arsenal with something in mind, which is a little bit concerning, I think, from their perspective. I think they can fully go to Arsenal with confidence, but that's off the back of this brilliant result today. First half, there was only one team in it. Newcastle fully deserved the victory off the back of that. Tonali and Bruno in a new formation because of Joe Willock and Kieran Trippier's injuries, played together in midfield without that sort of protection, and I was a little bit concerned about that, but Newcastle's intensity just took them from the very start. Tonali scores the opening goal. Newcastle never really looked back from there, aided by, or we thought, by a red card for Nicholas Jackson, which is a definite red card, the elbow. I mean, he looks at the player as well. It's definite red card. VAR intervenes. At that point, it's definitely Newcastle's to lose. But in the second half, credit Chelsea, I think, and Eddie Howe made this point. They made some tactical tweaks. They took Caicedo out of the defence, so he was at right back and really struggling against Anthony Gordon, and then brought Reece James on. That made a huge difference for them. They gained control and fully sort of dominated the game without creating too many chances. You can understand why they didn't perhaps create too many because of the fact they were missing their main striker. But Newcastle rode their luck, and that wasn't deliberate. Eddie Howe said in the second half it was just by virtue of the fact that they had so much to lose, and Chelsea didn't. Chelsea had an ability to throw caution to the wind, and that really showed in that second half performance, I thought. And Eddie Howe was asked about this, and Bruno was asked about this. The team has learned how to be big game players. 2 years ago with the Carabao Cup final and the game against Dortmund and Liverpool in the league and various games, the question was always whether Newcastle had the mentality and the quality to do what they needed to do in the league and get over the line. And this season, I think they've really learned how to do that. I think Tonali's made obviously a massive impact in terms of his performance, but influence as well. I mean, Joe Linton not there today, it was a perfect game for him, but that physicality and ability to stand up for the team and stand up for themselves, Tonali and Bruno took care of that absolutely. I thought they were fantastic in that regard. And without Trippier as well, there's two huge mentality players, if you like, who define what Newcastle do. And they were absent, and Newcastle turned around and won the game fairly comfortably. As I say, caveat that by the second half performance wasn't brilliant, and they did have their backs against the wall, but they came through it and didn't really look too concerned by it. I know Chelsea, as I say, they dominated the game, didn't create too many chances. Cole Palmer had a poor game overall. I think he was very much absent from the forefront, if you like. Gordon against Caicedo was looking like it was going to be the topic of my video early on because of the way that he came back in and made such an impact. Off the back of that great cameo against Brighton, it looked like he was staking his claim again. I thought he had much more influence than Barnes did today. But as I say, once Caicedo went into midfield, and he looked a lot more certain and a lot more calm on the ball and looked a lot better, and that made a massive difference for Chelsea. But as I say, this is all down to Newcastle's performance. It's all down to what Newcastle did in their mentality. I think that's where this team has learned and developed and grown, and all but secured Champions League, you'd like to think now. They still have to go to Arsenal. They still have to beat Everton, and Everton isn't going to be an easy game, obviously. They will love to spoil the party for Newcastle. Jordan Pickford in particular would love to spoil the party for Newcastle, but you've got to back Newcastle to do it. I think what was really telling about today was at a 12 o'clock kickoff, lots of worry about the atmosphere and how it would be, but everyone sort of saw that off, and there was a real push from the club with the free offer of pints after 10 a.m, get in early. There was a big point made about that, and it really paid dividends. and everyone raised their game. And as we've seen, PSG, as Bruno mentioned himself, Arsenal in the league a couple of times, in the Carabao Cup this year, when that performance is needed, both in the stands and on the pitch, Newcastle do tend to stand up and be counted. They've got 10 minutes, just been given the old 10 minutes, so I've got to be out of here in a minute. But yeah, a really, really good performance from Newcastle, absolutely excellent. No reason they can't go to Arsenal and get anything. A couple of bits of housekeeping. Joe Willock and Kieran Trippier aren't too serious. Sven Botman came off in the second half, feeling something at half time, but again, Eddie Howe isn't too concerned by the sounds of things with him. But yeah, Newcastle march on, and they showed the best of both worlds, really. I think that was the great thing. In the first half, all over, Chelsea dominant on the ball, dominant positionally, and I think really tactically it was really intelligent, because they didn't play at such intensity that they couldn't continue it throughout the game. They set traps, they went back to sitting deep and making it difficult for Chelsea to break them down, then spring in on them. And Anthony Gordon, that's why I think he was really crucial in that first half. It was a shame that he came off. We credit Enzo Maresca for the way he changed that at half time, with the change, bringing Reece James on. Caicedo in midfield made a huge difference, and then Sancho comes on in the second half, and it made Eddie Howe react. Eddie Howe had to bring on Emil Kraft, and that's when Gordon came off. And at that point you're thinking, what can Newcastle do? How do they get through this? But they did. Showed their mettle. They showed the development. I think 2 years ago they wouldn't have won that game. That's what and it reminded me so much of Liverpool here last season. I wasn't at the game, but in the second half, once Virgil van Dijk had been sent off, Liverpool actually looked the better side and scored 2 goals through Darwin Núñez. So for Newcastle to react and better themselves and hold on, and obviously that fantastic goal by Bruno, it did take a deflection, I'm told, and he said it was in his top 5 goals anyway. I think I did remind him of Southampton away, which he agreed with, but I thought he was colossal today, and he's really growing into being a captain. I asked him that about him being captain, how has the captaincy helped him? He's been criticised a lot this season for maybe not being the ideal captain, but actually I think he really shows how it does take his game to another level. He just says he's the same Bruno regardless, but the speeches that he gives, the leading that he does from the front, I think it has helped him overall. I think he's become a really good captain, aided by the leadership group of Dan Burn, Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier as well, and John Lascelles, who's obviously back in the squad today. So yeah, I think Bruno's a brilliant captain. I know he's been criticised at times this season, but to me he's really shown why he's so good. When he had 9 bookings and one more booking we would have seen him banned, and he didn't get banned, that shows a lot of calmness, a lot of control in his game, and I think that's come from him. He's really he gets G'd up, he gets the crowd excited, he represents the club on the pitch, and the fact that the crowd responds to him, that's all brilliant. But it comes off the back of him being so good at what he does, and I think the captaincy has aided him in calming him down and giving him more control. I think we saw that in the second half. There was a brilliant foul that he did when Chelsea were getting on top of Newcastle, and it felt like a goal was coming that just calmed everything down. Him and Tonali, again, it's a long time ago since anybody suggested they couldn't play together, so absolutely brilliant performance. But yeah, I'm being told I've got to go now, so thanks so much for joining me. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.